Oh, I can already feel the anger and resentment of some people simply from the title and thumbnail of this video. I can see the comments already. Roman Torchwick alive? There's no way that's possible. He was swallowed by a Grimm, which was thrown into an airship that exploded. There's no way he could have survived that. Rooster Teeth itself, the creators of RWBY, have confirmed that Roman Torchwick is dead and gone. What the hell is this guy talking about? There's no way that Roman Torchwick could be alive. But I ask you, think about this for a moment. Let's just say that Roman Torchwick's death was staged, or any character in the series that wasn't, one of the main four who are obviously going to survive until later on. But let's say that any other character's death was staged. Well, would Rooster Teeth, after getting all the questions, is this character alive? Are we going to see them again? What's going to happen with this character? Are they really dead? What answer do you think Rooster Teeth would give, assuming they still have future plans for this character, that they faked their death? Well, of course Rooster Teeth would say that they're dead. Of course they'd say and confirm, just say, no, they're dead and gone. Otherwise, if they said anything else, if they denied to give an answer, or they said you might see them again, or confirmed that they were alive, that would be a horrible idea on their part, because that would ruin the entire surprise of the return of that character. So you can't take everything that Rooster Teeth says as sheer gospel, because other creators have done this in the past, and I wouldn't put it past Rooster Teeth to pull one over on us. But let's just look at the facts of how Roman Torchwick died. He was swallowed whole by a Grimm. We didn't see the Grimm chomp down and one of his legs go flying off. Maybe a little bit too graphic for RWBY at that point, although we did see Penny get ripped to shreds and, well, Pyrrha. But, having a bloody leg get flown off, maybe a little bit too graphic, but he was swallowed whole. No body parts broken, so assuming that being swallowed by a Grimm doesn't instantly kill you, because we don't know that much about Grimm. We don't know what happens inside a Grimm. I don't know if it's really been done that someone's dissected a Grimm, kept it alive long enough to look at its biology, things of that sort. We don't know that much about them. So it's possible that, yeah, just being swallowed by a Grimm could kill you. But let's just say it doesn't. So he's swallowed by the Grimm. RWBY ends up kicking that griffin right into the ship. And yes, it hits the ship, goes into it, blasts a big hole, but we never see the Grimm disintegrate. So it's potentially still alive in the ship. And then the ship proceeds to start exploding, and then it fully explodes once it crashes to the ground. Now, the method that the ship explodes doesn't seem quite right to me. The entry point of the Griffin into the ship is the control room. Obviously, with the control room destroyed, well, that means the ship is going to go down. And it seems odd that if the control room was destroyed, that the rest of the ship would have explosions starting to go along it, starting from the control room outwards. If something like the control room is the control room. If it's destroyed, the ship loses control, it would go to the ground. That makes sense. But the other explosions don't really to me. Sure, the Grimm could have hit other parts of the ship, like the engine or something, but you'd think it would just be that area that explodes. Well, these explosions that were happening in the ship were coming, well, the ship was quite long. Explosion happens at this end where the control room is, RWBY's running along this side, and explosions are almost following her. As if maybe there was something inside that was rampaging about, causing those explosions to happen. Now that's just a little bit of a crazy theory, but it's not impossible that the Grimm could be alive inside the ship while it's on fire and burning. That's not impossible. And then once RWBY jumps off of it, there was a time as the ship is going down that it was off screen. So it could have easily happened that the Griffin, still alive, could have escaped the ship before it crashed and hit the ground. So there is a possibility that Roman Torchwick is alive. And I also want to point out that Roman Torchwick was a character confirmed by Rooster Teeth to have not awakened a semblance. And now I can already see some comments being that, well, why would you take one piece of Rooster Teeth's gospel as the truth and then deny another? That being, well, Roman Torchwick confirmed that he does not have a semblance versus Roman Torchwick being confirmed dead. Well, We've seen it in the canon of the story, in the RWBY series itself. We have seen in many situations, Roman Torchwick has lost fights that he would have preferred to win. So if he had a semblance, he would have used it. And he's just never been in a situation stressful enough to use his semblance, which makes sense. He's never been in a dangerous situation, like maybe being swallowed by a Grim and having his life at stake to that degree. Well, there you go. That situation alone, being swallowed by the Grim and having his life threatened, could have awakened his semblance, and that could have been the easy way that he would have survived, especially with the words before he died. His last words that were meant to be a sort of irony, that he will continue to lie, cheat, steal, and survive, at which moment he's swallowed by a Grim. Quite the irony, if irony's the right word for that, and then he's dead, he's gone. But what if those words were not only meant to be irony, but they were also a hint at what his semblance would be? A survival instinct of sorts. I don't know exactly what his semblance could be, but assuming it's something that would help him survive that situation, then it's not out of the realm of the possible. In fact, it's very possible that he could have awakened his semblance that moment and survived. And as for returning back to why would I take one piece of the Rooster Teeth or RWBY creators' gospel as the truth and one piece as not, well, I've already mentioned why I don't believe that when Rooster Teeth says Roman Torchwick is dead, that he's actually dead. Because as a creator, that'd be a ridiculous idea to say, oh no, we went to all that effort to make it look like he's dead, and then he's actually alive. And I've went through this once before. Before Volume 6, I made a video about I believed that Cinder was dead. I believed that her character was kind of at its point where if she was killed off, I would be quite happy with that. She had reached her lowest point, and so on and so forth. But I'm happy that her character's alive, and more importantly, the comments when I made that video. There were a lot of people throwing out the same comments that I believe are going to be at least a couple on this video as well, that there's no possible way Cinder's dead. Show me proof. Where's the body? You're an idiot for saying that Cinder's dead. There's no way. If Cinder's dead, I'm quitting RWBY. I got some of those comments. And with that, I'm going to put those exact same comments back. That, well, if Roman Torchwick's dead, show us the proof. Show us the body. Otherwise, I'm going to believe that he's alive. And yes, I know that I'm well aware that it is likelier than not that he is dead. I'm well aware of that, but I want him to be alive. There's a possibility that he's alive, hence why we theorize. Simply a theory. And with that, the inspiration for this theory is actually from Volume 6, Episodes 5 and 6 to be specific, and I'm sorry, I'm going to probably mispronounce your last name, but a commenter on, I believe it was Episode 6 of Volume 6, that by the name of Alfonso Freet, I believe. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, but he brought up the point, as I mentioned, when we were going through these episodes on Brunswick Farms, there was a photo, first and foremost, there was a photo that drew a lot of people's attention. The photo of all the people who used to live at Brunswick Farms who were later found dead in their beds. We don't know if all of them are accounted for, however, and a lot of people, upon seeing that photo, noticed one thing, or two things, I should say, in particular. Two children. One little orange, red-haired boy that looked very similar to Roman Torchwick, or at least what he would look like as a child. And then there was also a little girl, seemingly a little bit younger than the red-haired boy himself, holding a doll. So a lot of people started theorizing that that was Roman Torchwick and Neo, and this was where they grew up as children, and they escaped. Which I didn't put too much stock in at the time, but I'm starting to put more stock in it now, especially once Alfonso pointed out that, well, all the books that Maria was reading that was chronicling the events of Brunswick Farms and the creator of Brunswick Farms, Bartleby, well, like everything that happened, he noticed, well, I first pointed out that there were numerous different volumes shown. There was Volume 1, Volume 3, Volume 6, and Volume 8. We saw those 8 volumes of the journal, I guess, the diary of Bartleby that was chronicling those events. And I mentioned that, well, these numbers seem odd. Maybe there's something that Rooster Teeth is trying to just throw out there, because they could have really put all of that into a single journal. Just put a title on the book that just said Bartleby and left it at that. And that was the only book that Maria's reading. So there has to be a reason why she had those specific numbers, 1, 3, 6, and 8. And Alfonso pointed out that, well, they're in Roman numerals, and Roman stood out to him. So maybe that would be the return of Roman Torchwick. And upon simply hearing that someone else was on board with the theory that Roman Torchwick was alive, I felt I had to make this video. So I thank you, Alfonso, for commenting that, and please, I will gladly take inspiration from anyone else's comments on making videos. But as for the relevance of volumes 1, 3, 6, and 8 in terms of Roman, well, volume 1, he was actually the first character that we were introduced to in the main canon of RWBY. He was the first character we saw, before even seeing RWBY herself. And I'm not counting the red, white, black, and yellow trailers, I'm counting just the RWBY series. Roman Torchwick is the first character we see, and in Volume 3 is when he dies. So, potentially, Volume 6 is, well, I don't know if that's when he's going to return. I hope it's when he returns, but that is when Neo returns. And now you could be saying, well, then the volumes, the Roman numerals, relate to Neo, except that she wasn't introduced in Volume 1, so that's thrown out right there. But Roman numerals, Roman Torchwick, it makes sense to me, and obviously makes sense to others, so I'm hoping that somewhere in these next 4 episodes, Roman Torchwick returns, and if it's not the return of Roman Torchwick, then hopefully he returns somewhere later along the line. I'm still going to believe that he's alive until Neo confirms that he's not alive. Because yes, she does have Roman's hat, and she had to have gotten that somewhere. She probably went to the crash site to try to find him and find out where he was and everything of that sort, and only found his hat. Well, if she found nothing but his hat, then where was his body? He could have crawled off somewhere else, and maybe his hat was just gone and he decided not to look for it and just get the hell out of Beacon. Because Grimm were attacking, the Elysian Knights were attacking. It was not a fun place to be, especially if he's just gotten out of a ship crash. And also, another thing I want to point out, if he was still on that ship when it crashed, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he survived, because you need to remember, at the end of Volume 2, he survived a train that was speeding into concrete barriers that blasted through the ground, releasing Grimm into the city, and he was unconscious. Blake had knocked him out. And before you claim that, oh, he probably woke up and everything, no, he didn't. Because he was captured afterwards. And if you claim that, oh, Neo must have showed up and rescued him from the train, well, how was he captured afterwards? Sure, it could have been something that he wanted, that he planned, but I'm sure he would have preferred to be free for all the future events coming, because otherwise, all he did was just sit there and wait to be freed. If he was free already, then that would have made things a lot easier, supposedly. So, yeah, he's a pretty sturdy guy, being unconscious, being able to survive that entire train crash, so yes, I believe it's entirely possible that he would have survived. Perhaps even if he was surviving inside the Grimm probably would have survived that train crash, because, frankly, they're quite sturdy in and of themselves. So I believe it's quite possible that Roman Torchwick is alive. Now, as for Volume 8, what might signify for Roman, since that was the last volume of Bartleby's diaries, well, with that one, it was tossed aside. So if Roman does return, maybe that means he's tossed aside in some way, shape, or form. Maybe that means Neo, the last remnant of Torchwick's, I guess, family or affiliation, is tossed aside, and maybe something else will happen with her at that point. I also want to point out that Neo attacked Cinder, and she responded with, "I wasn't the one who killed your boss." No kidding. Neo would know that already. The only 3 people on that ship the day that Roman Torchwick died was Roman himself, Neo, and RWBY. The ship went down, Roman was dead, likely Neo found his hat next to the ship. So, yeah, with Cinder being at the Tower of Beacon, nowhere near the ship, of course Neo wouldn't think that Cinder was the one who killed Roman directly. But she still holds Cinder responsible, and that's if Neo actually believes that Roman is dead. For all we know, Neo and Roman could have come up with some plan to steal Cinder's maiden powers, or get back at Cinder for all the things that they did to her, or find some scheme to get back at Little Red, because, frankly, RWBY was a thorn in Torchwick's side for quite a while, and I don't believe for a second that if Roman Torchwick were to return, that he would end up being a good guy, because he's done a lot of bad, and he enjoyed it just a bit too much. Plus, he's also voiced by Grey Haddock, one of the creators of RWBY, one of the supervisors of RWBY. So, well, yeah, I don't think he's actually a creator, just one of the production manager, I think. I need to look up his actual title. But he voiced Roman Torchwick, and from the sounds of it, he had a lot of fun doing it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he returned in the future. So that's pretty much my theory as to why I believe Roman Torchwick's alive. I don't know what place he'll have when he comes back in the future, but I do believe and hope that he is alive. And yes, I will restate again, I understand that it's very likely that he is dead and gone, based on everything that we have, but there's also a decent possibility, based on what I've described, that he is still alive. So, I put it to you guys again. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this theory. If how many of those posts I'm going to see that are calling me an idiot, that there's no possible way that he could be alive, let me know. But I will especially want to hear from everyone who has watched this far into the video, because I really appreciate you guys, first of all, putting up with my ramblings and putting up with this, not necessarily out there theory, but kind of theory that's not really talked about anymore, that a lot of people put down out of anger that it's been talked about before. It's done. It's over with. Things along those lines. So let me know in the comments below how you feel about this, what you think might happen in the future. Even just comment below about what you think what's going to happen with Neo. I might make a separate video on her. In fact, I probably will somewhere along the lines in the coming months. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks again for watching.